you start up front and you start with the big news about Roger Goodell getting his contract renewed or extended with the NFL, which seemed like a surprise to Jerry Jones and a couple of the owners and who have had sort of an adversarial relationship with him. But otherwise, it was widely expected that they would extend him, and they've done so with a 5-year deal with $200 million.
Were you surprised at the price tag? And would there have been anyone else to take that job?
No, although you guys mentioned Tim Cook's salary, and it does look like Roger Goodell is going to be making more than Tim Cook. So I'm not surprised at all by it. A lot of people have pointed to the ratings for the NFL being down as potentially a reason for maybe not wanting to renew that contract. But in terms of all the important numbers to the NFL as a whole and to the ownership groups, the numbers are all up. The revenue is up about 2% for the NFL, and it's mostly because of their tri-casting rights. They've been very experimental with broadcasting games on Amazon and on Twitter, a $2 billion streaming deal with Verizon. And so you see that there are a lot more places to watch a lot more football, which has also ended up with some additional ad inventory for people.
So when we hear these headlines about traditional ratings going down, should we take away from that there's a problem going on at the NFL, or should we say to ourselves, actually, this stuff is being distributed in all sorts of other new ways, there's advertising revenue, and there's more people watching?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. And actually, our colleagues at Recode have done some great work around this. Kurt Wagner for Recode actually wrote a big piece about it for our refresh in March, just about the future of football and the future of broadcasting rights. And so without that experimentation, you can't get cord cutters. And so I would be worried if you were only seeing growth in the traditional broadcast model and not sort of reaching out to millennials and people who are watching on different devices. I think that's where the future of that league is going to be.
The issue of the year had to be, did the market value of this franchise get tainted by this issue around taking the knee? It's still there. It's been approached in different ways about advertising, about how many people it offended. You know, I have some investments with vets that are very taken back by this. They're not okay with it. They're big football fans. They're pretty unhappy. They're still unhappy. How is this going to resolve itself? And can you measure the effect? Is there any way to know that this hurt the market cap of the franchise? Not
particularly, because you see attendance being down in certain stadiums, but not overall. And then from team to team, they've all handled it a little bit differently. And you've seen some players take a knee throughout the whole season. You've seen players take a knee and their teammates, you know, put their hand on their shoulder, and some teams take a knee before the anthem and then not during the anthem.
But shouldn't Goodell put policy on this?
I think you tread a really fine line there, because you infringe on player rights, and players are the actual sort of most marketable part of this game.
These are private contractors.
Yeah.
They have the same rights any employee would have.
Right.
Most companies have edicts of policy. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't this apply here?
Well, I don't think you want to see the NFL go the way of sort of hiding behind the shield and protecting the brand over its players, because, again, the player is the most marketable part of the game. You see the celebrations come back for the NFL, and it's been amazing to see people in the end zone dancing. Odell Beckham being out for the year was a huge deal because he's the #1 in jersey sales. Fans want to see players be themselves, and I think you've seen the NBA. That has been widespread. There's a freedom of speech there, and people are allowed to express their political beliefs, and the NBA has grown in popularity because of it.
Let's talk about the Carolina Panthers.
Yes.
36 hours between the Sports Illustrated expose and the announcement that the team was going to be sold. Was that a one-off?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a one-off. Jerry Richardson has been an owner who, you know, has had a lot of say-so in the league, and he's somebody that bought the rights to the team in 1993 for about $203 million. He's looking to sell that franchise now for about $2 billion after the season is done. And it's a one-off in the sense that Jerry Richardson is going to sell without an estate and without a trust, and not to anybody in his family, mostly because he does not want to face NFL disciplinary practices. He'd rather sell the team outright than sort of deal with those sanctions. And it looks like they'll be able to find buyers.
But do you think, and running a news organization, I'm sure you guys get all sorts of allegations, unfounded and otherwise, coming inbound. Do you think that there will be other franchises that will be hit with similar allegations?
Well, sure. I think you see with the Me Too hashtag and the movement around certain things that have happened in Hollywood, I think that, you know, harassment is an issue that is top of mind for everybody in every business right now. And I don't think that the sports world is immune from that. It would be really hard to speculate to say how widespread that would be. But again, I don't think it's a problem that exists in a silo.
Finally, give us a look ahead to the Olympics. In the last few months, we had heard that ticket sales were extremely underwhelming, whether that was because of Russian doping or restriction on Chinese tourism, geopolitical concerns, them being in South Korea. Where are we now, a couple months ahead of?
Yeah, I think there's still some political tensions on the peninsula itself, and so people are worried about that. But it hasn't really scared off the sponsorship groups there. I think that the biggest concern business-wise was coming into that, seeing if the Samsungs of the world would be able to sort of underwrite the games themselves. And even though Samsung has faced their own political drama, you've seen other Korean groups step up and take over some of that sponsorship. So we're thinking that the Olympics will continue to be pretty big, especially around some women's sports there.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.